I've had 3 fantastic days.
It's been a great week.
I think it's been an amazing week.
Everything's bigger in Texas. I think in New Zealand as a startup company, you're always told, breaking into the US market is how you hit the big time. And it's not really until you come here that you truly understand the truth behind that statement. And seeing it in the flesh is what it's all about.
One of the things that you always have to say about Texas, the size of it. We just can't imagine the scale that you have here. It's phenomenal. And so even seeing the Texas Medical Center and all the facilities that are associated with it is kind of mind-blowing.
I had no idea of the scale and magnitude and level of resources available here in Houston.
I think the highlight has been all the people we've met and the conversations we've had and the things we've listened to from the local experts, of which there have been a great many of really excellent caliber.
And also the presentations back in the conference centre here. There's been a number of, things which surprised me that I didn't think I would get much out of, but they proved to be very informative.
One of the things that really helped me was the talk about the FDA. For the sorts of developments that we're making, it became obvious about the track that you went through the FDA and when you went down there and how you would do it all. So it really clarified that, and for me that was quite revolutionary, really.
I'd say the quality of the speakers and the caliber of the speakers was good. It was first rate. And I think you got a good balance between the business side and the research side. With it being a split delegation, I thought it might have been, half of it may have been a bit less useful from the business perspective, but everything was applicable, so it was great.
That was the best talk or even advice I've ever heard from an IP lawyer.
I learned heaps on the business end, which was equally important because as a scientist, obviously, I'm not as versed in those kinds of things. So all around, it was amazing.
Yeah, so before coming into this, the whole thing was a bit vague. How could a New Zealand company like ours come into the US, couldn't visualize a path, couldn't visualize a way in which that could happen. And although I had spoken to folks at Noel, it really wasn't clear until we got here and actually listening to the various speakers, just giving us an overview of how a company could conceivably come into come from New Zealand into the US, get incubated, get the support that it needs in the networks.
Jay from the regulatory approval approach. That's one thing that we knew was going to be one of the challenges that we have with the implementation of an AI algorithm into the space. There was enough insights from that presentation for us to be able to have an extended discussion with her group about how they might help us with that. So that's made the whole thing really worthwhile.
So there've been multiple highlights. The fact that industry experts have all come together to share their knowledge has been one of those. Second highlight would be the group that we have together and bouncing ideas off, the connections made within the other delegates and researchers. So we've made some connections that we're going to be able to get together with following this trip. Two key highlights.
Also talking to the other delegates and the Knoll Group staff. The conversations have been really interesting. The information's been really informative. And I feel that my concept of what is possible in the US market for a New Zealand company has been really widened and expanded. It's almost as if a whole new scale of possibility has been opened up to me.
And probably I'll be going back and talking to at least 2 of the products that are here as well, where we could see synergies of how we could maybe complement each other. So, that was an absolute bonus. So for me, it's, just had a great time.
I think some other opportunities have arisen out of this to collaborate with some people from MedTech Core and Callaghan. We've been having some discussions around that. I've had some great conversations with Hamish and Stacey, and so we're looking forward to networking with further opportunities here in Houston. And another opportunity has been to meet some of those incubators at the TMCX. And I think there's a couple of contacts I've made there, which we'll see what happens. It may come to some sort of collaboration that would benefit both of us. So we're looking forward to that.
I think there are opportunities to work with some of the major hospital groups here in Houston, and specifically we met with people on this trip that we'll be following up with after we get back to New Zealand.
Well, I just finished coming back from Rice University and made a collaboration with one of the 3D bioprinting research leaders in the field, and so I'm really excited about that. I was excited to even meet him and see his lab space, but I was just blown away by the fact that after my brief presentation I gave him on my work, he was willing to collaborate with me and continue that relationship and even do some co-funding, some grant applications with me. So I'm super excited.
So ask me later in the day. I'm about to make some visits out to the team, the medical center, to follow up with clinicians, where I'm hopeful that things might stick. So we'll see.
Yeah, so Houston's massive in the medical space, and everybody knows that, right? But how do you find your way in amongst these tens of thousands of clinicians and these 59 hospitals in this really small space? It's quite a daunting task. And what I really kind of took away from this week was just ask some of these connections that we've made this week. And we made a lot of individual connections. You don't necessarily know how they're going to go, but we've got a lot of phone numbers, we've got a lot of emails, and made a lot of friends on the trip that we can call up and just work our way into the system. It's increased the opportunity for us.
And for me, it's been quite revealing to get an increased understanding of actually, yes, it is complex, but there are also people who can help you through those processes. And whilst I don't understand the environment completely, at least I have an idea about how to go around tackling it and who I can speak to. And so hopefully we can resolve some of those problems and get into the American market.
I think the big takeaway is how easy it is to get on the ground and set up a business here. So in terms of collaborating with the Noel group, that's a really smooth process. Further to that, the network of people that I've been introduced to here have really made me feel welcomed, and that's something which is quite rare in a business sense. And so they really wanted to push me along and get me going. So I think the opportunities for collaborating with those people is huge. And so coming out here, talking with people, understanding who they are as people, and as well as what their business is, makes it a lot easier for me to make the decision to come to the US.
I see this whole concept of Houston. I think New Zealand Inc. has to put a line in the sand somewhere soon and say, where are we going to take our health groups in terms of, you really want a beachhead where people have got that conduit path. And right now I think Houston's at the beginning, and the groundwork here is potentially awesome.
I think one of the big impressions coming to Texas is how much we have in common with the people here. And it's, I think, as an entry point into the United States, it's a good place to start. It's not the largest city in the United States, but certainly one of the most accessible in terms of affordability, opportunities, and culture.
I do see it as definitely a premium site for the first footsteps of the company into the American market.
No, I really enjoyed the week. I thought the Noel group did a great job. Like I said before coming in, I wasn't quite sure what the week was going to be about. But now, sort of at the end of it, you can sort of look back and go, actually, everything fitted in very nicely. And I feel like I'm leaving with a very clear overview of what the landscape looks like and what the first couple of steps are going to be when we get back home. So I'm really looking forward to following up on the leads. And I want to thank the Noel team for everything that you guys have done.
Yeah, I mean, look, the whole program was excellent. All the speakers were well chosen. We had a number of great campus visits. And I really liked just sort of having that tourism aspect to it, where you're immersed in an environment of entrepreneurship, the clinical side, and the whole package. And yeah, that was the big takeaway, I guess. Just it filters through, and you come away, with a good perspective on where things need to go.
No, I came over with kind of mixed feelings. Am I going to get a lot from this? Because we are a later stage company. We've been in business for 20 years. So you sort of looked at it and thought, well, is this framed for people who are kind of early in their path, and you're looking at incubators and accelerators and things, and we're kind of well matured past that. But in reality, we've got some valuable stuff from it. So I'm very happy with it. So that's a good end to the discussion.